His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Shiranobhati, ISKCON Svakaracharya Srila Prabhupada, Granta Raj Srimad Bhagavatam, Shri Shri Radha Radhanath Ki, Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Ki, Sankirtan Yajna Ki, Gaur Premanande, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga, all glories to Sri Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So devotees, just a moment. But anyway, today we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 24, chanting the song sung by Lord Shiva. And today we are reading verse 70. Just a moment. And I will try just to... Yes. Tam evatmana atma stam sarva bhuteshu avastita pujayadvam grinatash cha Jayantash Chasakrid Darim Tamevatmanavatmastam Sarvabhuteshvavastitam Pujayadvam Grinatascha Jayantas Chasakridarim Tamevatmanavatmastam Sarvabhuteshvavastitam Pujayadvam Grinatascha Jayantas Chasakridarim Tamevatmanavatmastam Sarvabhuteshvavastitam Pujayadvam Grinatascha Jayantas Chasakridarim
Amen. dreams.
Tamivatmanamatmastam Sarvabhutesha vastitam Ujayatvam grinantascha Yayayantascha sakritarim Tamivatmanamatmastam Sarvabhutesha vastitam Ujayatvam grinantascha Yayayantascha sakritarim Tamivatmanamatmastam Sarvabhutesha vastitam Ujayatvam grinantascha Yayayantascha sakritarim
Unto him, Eva, certainly, Atmana, the Supreme Soul, Atmastam, within your hearts, Sarva, all, Bhutesho, in every living being, Avastitam, situated, Pujayatvam, just worship him. Grinantacha, always chanting. Jayantacha, always meditating upon. Asakrit, continuously. Hari, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Translation. Therefore, O sons of the King, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Hari is situated in everyone's heart. He is also within your hearts. Therefore, chant the glories of the Lord and always meditate upon him continuously. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The word asakrit is significant, for it means not just for a few minutes, but continuously. That is the instruction given by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the Shikshastakam, verse 3, Kirtaniya Sada Hari, which appears in Chaitanya Charitamrita Adilita, chapter 17, verse 31. The holy name of the Lord should be chanted 24 hours daily. Therefore, in this Krishna consciousness movement, we request the devotees to chant at least 16 rounds on their beads daily. Actually, one has to chant 24 hours daily, just like Thakur Haridas, who was chanting the Hare Krishna mantra 300,000 times daily. Indeed, he had no other business. Some of the Goswamis, like Radhanath Das Goswami, were also chanting very rigidly and also offering obeisances very rigidly. As stated in Sridhar Acharya's prayer to the 6 Goswamis, Shad Goswami Ashtaka, Sankipurvakana Lagana Natapi Kalavasani Krito. The word Sankhya Purvaka means maintaining a numerical strength. Not only was Radhanath Das Goswami chanting the holy name of the Lord, but he was also offering obeisances in the same prolific numbers. Because the princes were ready to enter into some severe austerity in order to worship the Lord, Lord Shiva advised them to constantly chant of and meditate upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is significant that Lord Shiva personally offered his prayers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, just as he was taught by his father, Lord Brahma. Similarly, he was also preaching to the princes according to the Parampara system. One not only should practice the instructions received from the spiritual master, but one should also distribute this knowledge to one's disciples. The words Atmanam Atmastam Sarvabhuteshvarastitam are also significant. The personality of God here is the origin of all living entities. Because the living entities are parts and parcels of the Lord, He is the Father of all of them. One can search out the Supreme Lord very easily within one's heart, for He is situated in every living entity's heart. In this verse, the process of worshipping the Lord is considered to be very easy and complete, for anyone can sit down anywhere and in any condition of life and simply chant the holy names of the Lord. By chanting and hearing, one automatically engages in meditation. Can I have a cup of water or half a cup, please? Yes, so the verse again. Tameva Manamatmastam Sarvabhuteshvarastitam Pujayatvam Vidantascha Jayantascha Sakrit Dharmiyam. Therefore, O sons of the King, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, is situated in everyone's heart. He is also within your hearts. Therefore, chant the glories of the Lord and always meditate upon Him continuously. Namo Vishnu Hare Krishna Krishna Today, Shri Bhagavatam Swami Name. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharane. Nirvana Shishya Harinasti Chari Chutari. Vanchikapatribhyas Chakri Pusindubhya Evacha. Panitana Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda. Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Yes, so Lord Shiva is continuing giving his very wonderful instructions, advice, but it's instructions actually, to the Prachetas, the sons of King Prachinavarani Shat. And just every instruction is so wonderful and very transcendently rich. So the first point which is raised is that they should chant, we should chant, everyone should chant the holy names of the Lord, but not just occasionally, Prabhupada mentions for a few minutes, or just from time to time, but actually continuously. This is what Lord Chaitanya instructed in the third verse of Shikshastakam, so very well known to all of us. Kirtaniya Sadahari, that the holy name of the Lord should be chanted 24 hours daily. Or at least, as Prabhupada says, therefore, in this Krishna consciousness movement here, we request the devotees, or he instructs the devotees to chant at least 16 rounds on their beads daily. We mentioned day before yesterday in New Jagannath Puri, when actually we gave a little class on this particular verse from Shikshastakam. Trinata Bisa Nichina Torora Bisa Ishnana Amadina Amadena Kirtaniya Sadahari. That holy name should be chanted 24 hours a day, or constantly, continuously. But then again, it's only possible if one is in a certain state of mind, certain state of consciousness. Otherwise, if the mind is not in that state, then the mind basically will not allow a person to chant Kirtaniya Sada. Always, the devotees or the person's chanting will be interrupted by the mind. And it's said, and we did mention actually the other evening, but it's said that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati one time, when he was doing a public program, one member of the audience asked, is there a secret? Do you know the secret how to be Krishna conscious, like fully Krishna conscious all the time? And it is said that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta then, in a sort of, you could say in a type of, not exactly animated way, but very focused way, he leant forward, looking at the devotee, the person, and said, yes, I know the secret. I know the secret. Trinada pisa vichena, taroda pisa ishtena, amanina manadena, kirtaniya sada hari. This is what we've heard many years ago. So, and this is what Srila Prabhupada is saying, that to chant like that, first of all to chant is essential if one wants to maintain some sort of more serious type of Krishna consciousness. But ultimately to just chant as much as possible, at least 16 rounds, Prabhupada says, and that's a minimum. It's not that that's just the goal and then that's that. It's a minimum. In fact, we had an interesting experience. A few weeks ago, we were at Durban Hill, and some devotees invited us for lunch. They were staying, they had some rooms in Punchari, the end of Govardhan Hill, and those rooms were owned by a devotee from the Nimbaka Sampradaya. And so we went, and that devotee from the Nimbaka Sampradaya was there. And he was just going on and on. I mean, in a sense, it was nice that the association of devotees, which of course is a very important point. But we could see he wasn't really engaged, at least not in a very regular way. He wasn't engaged in chanting. And although he was expressing strongly how extremely happy he was to have the association of devotees, I mean, at least for half an hour he didn't stop. But his consciousness was not really sort of like really stabilized. Shri Radhanath, Shri Giri Govardhan, Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Ki Jai. And indeed, we see that in Vrindavan. There's so many of these old temples with the old deities, and in some cases, the very amazing deities and famous and just like very unique deities. But a lot of it, I mean, most of it, is in a deteriorated state. Some has deteriorated so much that they just can't even look after the deities, and they have to give them to other temples which are doing better financially to look after because they just can't manage it any longer. Like in the famous Radhanath temple, which Prabhupada stayed in, on the altar they have, I think it's 4 sets of important deities worshipped by great acharyas in our line. And those deities were worshipped in their own temples before, but then they couldn't manage, and so now they've gathered there in the Radhanath temple, which was very nice. But it's just a shame, really. And in other cases, it's like that also. In other cases, it's like that. And one of the most, if not the most, probably the most important factor in that is that there is not enough chanting going on. Not enough. In some cases, really not much at all. Means like you just practically never see them chant it. At least not enough. And so, therefore, the whole of Krishna consciousness becomes undermined, even though they're engaged in many other ways. So Prabhupada makes the point in the purport here that the word from the verse, asakrit, is significant, for it means not just for a few minutes, but continuously, as Lord Chaitanya instructed. In Shikshastakam 3, Kirtaniya Sada Hari. The holy name of the Lord should be chanted 24 hours daily. But at least 16 rounds. But if one does 16 rounds, one shouldn't really think that, certainly one should not think this is enough. And, therefore it's fine that I stop and I don't need to do any more. One should. We saw with Srila Prabhupada that, of course, he was very busy preaching and then organizing the Krishna consciousness movement. But whenever there was a few minutes to spare, he'll pick up his bead bag and start chanting. It was just like every time he would do like that. So, Kirtaniya Sadhari. Yes, of course, Haridas Thakur, the way it's put here, is that he chanted the Hare Krishna mantra 300,000 times daily. Hare Krishna mantra 300,000 times daily. So anyway, he was chanting 300,000 names at least daily. This is what we generally hear. Which means, well, one can calculate, divide 300,000 by 1,728 and see what result you get. Because that's how many rounds. And it's something, I forget exactly. What is it? 300,000 divided by, how you got your thing there? It's about 170 rounds, or something along those lines, give or take.
18,700.
How many?
So 300,000 divided by 16.
No, 300,000 divided by 1,728, because that's the number of names in 16 rounds. Yes. Because it's names. Actually, the way it's put here is chanting the mantra 300,000 times daily. Sure, that would be more. So what is it?
173.
173 point something.
0.6.
0.6.
1111.
0.6 something. Okay. So say 173, 174 rounds. And one time I met Sachinanda Maharaj, who's really into chanting. I mean, he is just really into chanting. And he was staying at Radhanath near Jagannath Puri. It was during Kartik doing a special vrata. And the vrata was to chant 300,000 names a day, 173, 174 rounds a day. And he talked just very briefly, because he was just so much into keeping going with the chanting, and he said that, I can see that in order to do this, if you don't have love of God, it'll just be so extremely difficult, because you cannot do anything at all other than chant. There's just no time. To bathe, you've got to do it quickly. To eat, if you're going to eat a little, just a little, but do it quickly. And he told me that he couldn't talk to me for long because he had to get back to his chanting like now and just keep at it. So Prabhupada says, indeed, Haridas Thakur had no other business. In other words, very rigidly, in a totally focused, concentrated way, he was just absorbed in pure Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada mentioned Srila Radhanath Das Goswami, who was also, and other of the 6 Goswamis, also chanting very rigidly, and particularly in the case of Radhanath Das Goswami, offering obeisances also very rigidly. It's explained in Chaitanya Charitamrita. He would generally chant 100,000 names, which is, if you divide 174 by 3, it's whatever it is, but less than 60. Right? Anyway, it's something like that, 174 divided by 3.
58.
58. So that's what he was doing every day. And I've had experience just personally, and I've seen others too. When we do these japa workshops and japa retreats, we have a 64-round day. And generally speaking, it really takes the better part of the day. And by the time you finish the 64 rounds, you think that, yeah, right, that really was something. But now, so Radhanath Das Goswami was basically doing that, 100,000 names a day. But then, as Prabhupada says, he was doing other things, offering obeisances very rigidly. He offered obeisances to deities 1,000 times a day. And he offered obeisances to devotees 2,000 times a day. Every day. And then, on top of all that, he gave class. And it said, generally on Lord Chaitanya, he would give class on Lord Chaitanya for plus or minus 3 hours a day. Hare Krishna. If anyone wants to just try it out and see what it's like, please do and report back. But this is quite the program. In fact, the program was such that he was busy doing these things. It said 22.5 hours a day. Then he had 1.5 left for everything else. including sleeping and bathing and eating. And anyway, it's superhuman in terms of the nature of the typical living entity living in bodily consciousness in this material world, dealing with the body on an ongoing basis. To live on an ongoing basis like that, it's superhuman. It's actually superhuman. But he was so, not just like rigid, in a sort of like being tough and just, carrying on regardless, that sort of thing. He was just so absorbed and ecstatic in all these things that quite often he would forget about taking a little rest, eating something, even bathing perhaps. And after 3 or 4 days, he had an assistant, or there was a little group of devotees with him. And after a few days, they would not be sort of on him regularly, but after maybe 3 or 4 days, they would say, "Oh, Srila Radhanath Das, you have not eaten for 4 days. You haven't laid down, you haven't rested for 4 days. We think you should do something like that, because otherwise the body, it may be a bit much for your body." But that's what he was like. And there's one description we've mentioned before, that when he was in his old age, because he lived to some very old age, 90 or something like that, when he was in his very old age, then he was still doing all these things. And it's described how there was a small group of devotees, maybe 3 or 4 or 5, visiting Radha Kund, Shamakund, where Srila Radhanath Das Goswami was living. And they were going around visiting the temples. There were a few temples around at that time. Of course, it's not like today, it's just one temple after another. But there was a few temples around. And so they were going around visiting the temples, having darshan, offering obeisances to the deities. And they came to one, it's not stated which one, but they came to one, they went in, and what did they see? There is Srila Radhanath Das Goswami, flat on the ground, offering prostrated obeisances to the deities. So they came in, and they also offered prostrated obeisances to the deities, and then they stood up. But they saw Srila Radhanath Das Goswami did not stand up. And so they're a little concerned because he's elderly. Maybe something's wrong. So after just a little while, they actually went and gently lifted him up. And it became clear he just was not able to stand up himself. And so they spoke to him and they said, Srila Radhanath Das Goswami, you are such a great devotee, but you're elderly, physically your body is not strong at all. So at this point, there's no need for you to offer prostrated dandavats. You don't have to do that. Just stand there like this and offer pranams, offer a prayer to the deities. Krishna will understand. And Srila Radhanath Das Goswami said, "Oh, that's very good advice. Thank you so much. That is very good. I will do that. I will do that." Very good. So the next day, that same little group of devotees came around, again, same program, and they came to the same temple. And there was Srila Radhanath Das Goswami prostrated on the ground. And they decided just to leave him because that was what he wanted to do. So yes, he was doing all these things. We mentioned chanting, whatever, 58 rounds a day at least, giving class for 3 hours at least, offering obeisances to deities 1,000 times, to devotees 2,000 times. He was doing this rigidly. You could say rigidly in that he was just doing it and he didn't stop. But it's not that he had a rigid type of consciousness. That yes, I'm doing these difficult things and it's a strain for my body, but I will carry on because I must do it in order to be rigid. He was chanting in ecstasy. He was speaking for 3 hours a day, just in ecstasy. He was offering obeisances to the deities in ecstasy, as a very deeply felt interaction and exchange with the deities. And he was offering obeisances to the devotees in the same way, same mood, deeply felt that these Vaishnavas, they are just so wonderful. I must offer them obeisances, of course, like that. Not just like, yes, I have taken a vow, so I do it. Down, up, like that sort of thing. As Prabhupada is said to have said that, what is it? If you offer obeisances, if you're sitting down on the ground, but you just lean forward, if your body is sort of supple enough, you lean forward while sitting and touch your head to the ground. We were told, at least we were definitely told, right when we were very, very new devotees, that Srila Prabhupada said, this is lazy man's obeisances. Yeah. And for that matter, in Nectar of Devotion, when Srila Rupa Goswami, Srila Prabhupada are listing out the different activities of a devotee, 64 activities, then offering obeisances, of course, is there. And Prabhupada makes some mention of how you should do it. It's not just you do it, but you should really bow down, actually. And not another one we heard, at least we were told, like repeatedly in the early days, that when you offer obeisances, it's not just down and up, and that's it's done now. But you're meant to chant, to offer prayers. Otherwise, they told us, Srila Prabhupada said, if you just do the down and up obeisances, we were told this is called jackknife obeisances. Apparently you get these knives, you just press a button and the blade comes out just like that. And maybe press it again and it comes back in, I don't know, but jackknife obeisances. So Srila Radhanath Das Goswami Prabhupada says, well, he and the Goswamis, some of the Goswamis, they were chanting very rigidly, offering obeisances very rigidly. And Prabhupada quotes, as he does on a number of occasions, from Shad Goswami Astakam of Srinivas Acharya, Sankhya Purvakana Gana Natapi Kalavasani Krito. Sankhya means to enumerate, literally. Prabhupada explains about Sankhya Yoga that it means you actually count the number of material elements, 24 or 25, depending on what sort of person you are. So Sankhya means to count. And Prabhupada mentions in I think it's the last chapter of the Bhagavatam he translated, that when Krishna went out every day with the cows, that the number of cows was asankhya, means innumerable. You can't count that many, it's just can't count. Just too many, maybe even infinite. But otherwise, Sankhya means, main Prabhupada, as he translates elsewhere also, maintaining a numerical strength, which is just a way of saying maintaining a regular number. So they were doing like that. And you see, there's at least one picture of Lord Chaitanya, they say it's from those days. And Lord Chaitanya has not a string of beads, but he's got like a strip of cloth which has knots in it. And he's chanting on the knots because Sankhya Purdaka, keeping track of the number. Not just as some people say, sometimes we tell people, oh yes, you must chant regularly, use the beats so you can keep track. And we chant 16 rounds, but some of them say, oh yes, I just chant all day, so I don't need to use the beads to keep track because I'm just chanting all day. Well, we don't really accept that, because our standard is from our acharyas here, Sankhya Purdaka, we maintain a specific numerical strength, at least as a minimum. Yes, so therefore Prabhupada says not only was Radhanath Das Goswami chanting the holy name of the Lord, but he was also offering obeisances in the same prolific numbers. Prolific, just really lots. So anyway, the princes, the Prachetas, they were ready for some program of sadhana and worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, having heard from Lord Shiva. So therefore Lord Shiva is advising them, constantly chant the names of the Lord and constantly meditate upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yes, so it's another point in principle that Prabhupada also explores a little bit here. That Lord Shiva, he was already doing that himself. It's not just that he felt they should do it. He's already doing it as he was instructed by his father, Lord Brahma. And now he's also preaching to the princes so that they should do that. So these are examples of parampara. He's great acharya, he's head of one sampradaya, and he is practicing in this way, and now he's demonstrating and he's instructing in that way. As he was instructed himself by Lord Brahma, who was at least like a spiritual master to him. And then on top of that, he's preaching. So as Prabhupada says, similarly he was also preaching to the princes according to the parampara system. So not only should one practice the instructions received from the spiritual master, but one should also distribute this knowledge to one's disciples, Prabhupada says, and definitely that should be done, but actually just to everyone. Just to everyone. As Lord Nityananda and Haridas Thakur were doing every day. They were just going door to door. And they just told everyone to chant. Just please chant. Again and again. And it's described how Lord Nityananda, he would get so much into it. Now, please chant. Please. Please chant. Please chant. Really just imploring them to chant. And it's described that sometimes he would say, look, if you chant, if you will chant, I will become your servant. I'll just be with you, serving you all the time. If you'll just chant. So deeply felt preaching, advice, instruction. So yes, we are all, generally we are disciples, and of course we are to practice what we're told to do. And as Prabhupada says here, we all know extremely well, chant at least 16 rounds a day, minimum. So we must do that. But as disciples, we must also give instructions like that. Yeah. And by chanting and hearing, Prabhupada says, one automatically engages in meditation. I had just final little point. I had an interesting little experience this morning. You know, you see me over there, don't you? With my computer, telephones, and all that stuff. This morning, someone came online, someone named Sean, and said, how do you achieve samadhi? What is the sadhana? Basically, that was the idea. Achieve samadhi, how to, and what sadhana should one do? So I just, mainly I'm there chanting. I don't want to get sidetracked too much. But so I told him that, well, you know, the samadhi means to be just fully absorbed in service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And what's the sadhana? Well, there are certain activities like chanting and not doing certain things. But ultimately, there's sort of the foundation of the sadhana is to be constantly engaged in devotional service. Meaning, in a little broader sense, Krishna conscious activities, and of course including actual service to the Lord. But then the fellow said, no, I want to know, what's the sadhana? And so anyway, we're going to write something to him. But it's like that the sadhana is engagement in Krishna consciousness based on chanting. And the samadhi, the sadhya, the perfection, is to be engaged in those things and to just be absorbed in service to Krishna in different ways, but it's all service to Krishna. Hare Krishna. Any comments, questions? Yes, Radhaji. The microphone, I don't know, there it is.
Thank you for the beautiful class. It's just that we have a lot to do.
Just say the last sentence again.
I said, now we have a long way to go.
Oh, okay. Yes. A long way to go. But you know, anyway, what you say is completely right, obviously. We're not on the levels of these devotees, and we should not, no one should try to imitate. Occasionally we've had devotees who tried to imitate, like sleeping half an hour a night or even a couple of hours, because the whole system is not purified. Therefore, they end up falling asleep even while taking prasadam. But anyway, the thing is this, that Srila Prabhupada, well, he's our founder Acharya, so, you know, and he made it extremely clear that he is the founder Acharya. He's not just, you know, a sadhu, and he's not just, so to speak, a guru, but he's the actual founder Acharya. And Prabhupada, among other things, is so expert in Krishna consciousness that he knew what sort of program people like us need in order to make progress, at least in the direction of these great devotees. Not like, you know, after a year or two you're going to be there or something like that, but at least to move in that direction. And even, you know, he said so many times, if you just chant 16 rounds, follow the regular principles, do some service, then at the end of this life, you can, or you will, or at least you can, actually go back to Godhead. So therefore, we definitely don't need to be in anxiety or just think that, gosh, I need to do like Radhanath Swami was doing, or I need to come to that point, so let me specifically try and cultivate. I'll start doing not 1,000 obeisances to the deities. Let me start by doing 100. And I won't do 2,000 obeisances to the devotees, maybe 100. And I won't do 100,000 names of the Lord. At least I'll do 16 rounds, but maybe 32. We don't need to worry. We just follow the program Prabhupada gave us. And that is and will be the best thing, the most effective thing for us. Yes. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.